within and live life to its fullest. But the path is precarious, strewn with the roadblocks of negativity, depression, anxiety, and the like. So, expert help and counsel here is mandatory. It is a matter of great joy that we have with us Professor Mukul Bhalla ma'am as the expert for today's interactive session. She is a professor of psychology in the American Intercontinental University. Ma'am will be answering the questions asked by our students, paving the way towards a healthy and a happy mind. Over to you, ma'am, now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for having me. This
You're
is
welcome.
quite a pleasure and an honor. And today I'll be talking not just from the perspective of a psychologist, but also somebody who's been living with you all in that wave of COVID. Being in the US, we are just a little bit ahead of everybody, right? Even in the disease. So I can tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are things that make a difference because we've been living through it actually since last year, January. So let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Can you see a slideshow? Okay. All right. So basically, happiness and well-being. Basically, how to take care of that friend of yours, and that's your brain, that's your mind, so that you can put it to its best use. You can focus on the things you need to focus on, and also not focus on the things that hurt you. That also you should focus less on. I don't think we can ever shut out things. Our mind sometimes does have a mind of its own. Things do take over, no matter how hard you try. But the point is to try and be as in control of things as you possibly can. And control is going to be the one of the things we will talk about today, because in the day of COVID, in the era of COVID, there are lots of things that are out of our control. And that's part of the problem that we face. So I'm trying to make sure. Okay, so what's going on around us? What are the signs of the times? Well, we have this little tiny global pandemic that has been affecting our lives for quite a while now, for months and months and months. And basically, it's becoming almost, it feels unending. It's stressful, it's overwhelming. And it's not just adults, but also children that are feeling it because they can't escape it. Dr. Khanna and I have a niece, actually our nephew's daughter. So she's a granddaughter and she's what, 4 or 5. And she was asking me last year, "Aapke wahan corona khatam ho gaya? Hamare wahan corona hai, hum kahin nahi ja sakte." So the children are feeling it very much so. In fact, perhaps more because less things make sense to them. They don't know ye kya ho raha hai. And certainly the things that we have to take, things we have to do, the actions we have to take to stay safe are very, again, opposite to what human nature and our mind and our soul desires, which is social contact. Sukh mein, dukh mein, you need company, you need people, you need to see people around you. And that's one of the things that this disease has taken away from us. And of course, uncertainty about our future. When will all this be solved? When will this be behind us? When will we feel safe? When can we go back to our normal lives? And then these images I picked very carefully because it was basically there's everybody at home. So there's a lot of people around you all the time. You can't get away from being around the people that you are quarantined with, perhaps. And then you can't see the people you really want to see with, like your friends. So there's a lot going on in the house. There's a lot of physical restrictions, mask wearing, it's hot. And now to have to wear a mask and all that is really a hassle. Feeling alone, feeling lonely despite being in a crowd. And then what we have all been calling Zoom fatigue. We're on Zoom today. Everything is by Zoom. At my university, we do a lot of our work online anyway. So we had enough of it. And now it's become even worse. So, and since you have a camera and you have Zoom, everybody wants to see you. You are always on. And that gets tiring. It gets tiresome. So, and then this picture at the end, I don't want to ignore completely also. I really want to talk about this for a minute. The number of deaths that we have seen with the second wave cannot be ignored. I'm sure everybody here today knows more than a handful of people who have passed away, or know and not know, but have felt the pain themselves. Um, I, for example, have been very fortunate. Nobody in our immediate family has passed away, but enough people that were important to our loved ones have passed away. Lots of friends we hear about, and somebody said this, and this is very true. When you live in a foreign country, when you live far away from home and your loved ones, your phone is your lifeline. And when the second wave started, for us far away from India, we were afraid to check our phones first thing in the morning. That used to be the thing, right? Kya khabar hai, kya ho raha hai, kya chala, kisne kya joke dala, that whole thing, which is fun, became a thing of dread, because it was like, hey, ab ki baar ki, aaj kisi ki koi buri khabar na aaye, that somebody is sick or somebody has actually passed away. And that didn't happen every day. There was bad news coming in. And so, not to minimize the trauma that this pandemic is wreaking on us, besides the normal tensions and the normal stresses that we have in our life. So this is a serious topic. So we can joke a little bit about it, because that's part of coping with stress. But we cannot minimize how difficult this has been, especially the second wave. And I think especially with the security that we felt in India with the first wave, that things we were handling it much better, we were better immune to it, all of that got shattered. So again, our sense of security was also lost with the second wave. And now I hear from a lot of people, third wave aane wali hai, third wave ka kya hoga, third wave. So we're not only sitting in the second wave. I don't think it's completely over. I know things are opening up and things, but it's not done. And you're already dreading, aage abhi kya hona hai. You're not looking forward to it yet, to say, ab second wave ho gaya hai, ab now things will start getting better. There is that doubt in our minds. So how do we deal with all of this? Learning to cope with stress in a healthy way is actually a big skill to acquire. So think about it as a learning experience, right? Keep yourself safe so you are on the other side, and everybody you love is on the other side of this pandemic. But boy, this will make us really, really, really strong in dealing with a lot of the stresses that we will face in our lives. Because we'll say, hum to COVID ke zamane ke hain, right? We'll say we have dealt with it from that perspective. Ye kuch nahi hai. We can deal with this. We can take care of this. थोड़े दिनों अगर किसी को नहीं देखना है, deal कर लेंगे. मैंने तो 1.5 साल किसी को सही नहीं मिली थी. That kind of conversation will start to happen. And now that things are opening up in the US, as I hope they will soon in India, that's what we're saying. 15 महीने से नहीं देखा था इसको. अभी भी यहाँ पे नहीं गए थे. We are still not going out to restaurants and things like that. We don't feel that that's necessary and that it's safe. So और कोई जरूरत नहीं है खाने की. जब डिलीवरी हो जाती है तो रेस्टोरेंट में बैठ के खाने का रिस्क लेने का हम लोग को अभी हिम्मत नहीं पड़ रही है. एंड एज अ रिजल्ट वी लाइक ठीक है, नहीं बैठे लेकिन खाना तो घर पे आ जाता है. दैट्स जस्ट नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. सो अगेन इट्स अबाउट डीलिंग विद द सिचुएशन हाउ इट इज and making the best of the situation that you possibly can. Now let's first talk a little bit about stress. What does the research show about what stress can do to us? So of course we know that stress, anxiety can cause feelings of fear, sadness, worry, frustration, any combination of these things. We know that. But then stress also starts leading to changes in appetite, energy. It's not just mental, it starts becoming physical. So number 4 is physical reactions, skin reactions, rashes, headache, body pain, stomach problems. कहते नहीं फिक्र नहीं करनी चाहिए अल्सर हो जाएगा. अल्सर तो नहीं होता है necessarily. अब रिसर्च शो कर रही है कि अल्सर is not just mental, so physical stuff भी होता है. लेकिन stress can certainly increase certain hormones that are released in the body like cortisol, and if they remain in the body for too long, it is not good for you. Chemicals that are not supposed to be in your body shouldn't be in your body. So certainly they will lead to physical problems also, but mental problems become, and because of those health reactions, your chronic health conditions agar hain, so then those will start to get worse. But mental health, if you already were an anxious person, if you suffered from depression, this is not good, because this is just one more layer of problems that are being added on. Similarly, even for folks who are not dealing with physical or mental problems, conditions, then you will notice yourself having difficulty concentrating, making decisions. Why? Because that worry is constantly eating up your brain time, your brain power. And as a result, the things that you really need to get done are not getting done because you're freaked out, is the word, right? You're really just so anxious that your mind you cannot control, and it's always going into kya hoga, who's sick, how do I keep safe, kya ho raha hai, why isn't the government doing more, why isn't so and so out and about, why doesn't my mother listen to me and not do certain things. So you'll have those kinds of thoughts which will prevent you from being productive and being able to concentrate. A lot of people are dealing with this, with the increased use of smoking or drinking or other substances, because again, you're trying to protect yourself. But these are not the most optimal ways of dealing with it. Similarly, difficulty sleeping or having nightmares. My husband is a worrier. That's his job. That's his main job. And no matter what I do to tell him to say, stop thinking about it, stop reading the news. Ab sone ka time ho raha hai, let's stop, let's do something else. He can't help it because he lives on information. He's a scientist. So science is king, information is king. But what that ends up doing is he's consuming all this information till he falls asleep, till he cannot fall asleep. And you don't have to be a scientist to be behaving this way. Lots of us are doing it, right? You don't. And so with him, it was a bigger battle, because he said, if I don't read the news, I will feel more anxious, because uncertainty is also scary, right? Kya ho raha hai? So it's hard, because finding that balance is going to be the key for us to survive this. So it's natural. First of all, everybody needs to know it's perfectly natural to be anxious, to be stressed out, to be sad, because of all the things that we have not been able to do, not just the people we have lost, but the year that we have lost and the months that we are losing now from not seeing people. Shadiyan nahi ho rahi hain, ya shadiyan ho rahi hain, so we can't see the happiness. Children have been born that grandparents haven't met. They can't, they don't want to risk it. Their lives are at risk, the children's lives are at risk. So there's all of these. Again, the human connection is definitely frayed right now. So what we want to talk about is now the how to deal with it. Ho gaya. This is, we know the state of affairs. It is something we have to deal with. We can't wish it away. What do we do about it? How do we manage stress? So stress is going to be a part of our lives. It actually is a natural response to negative information. Our body has to respond to it. You can't ignore it. You can't become a cook manduk and just sit there and pretend nothing is happening. Of course, you have to realize that. But how do you tackle it as best as you can? So before talking of the mind, we'll talk about the first technique is taking care of your body. So it sounds really silly, right? Itna kuch ho raha hai. What do you mean taking care of my body? I'm not going to build my body. I don't need to go to the gym. Please don't go to the gym. I don't know if it's safe. Yahan par to gyms ko lockdown mein dal diya tha for the longest time and said, koi nahi ja raha hai. And the reason was that if you think about it, people sweat, people talk. There's so many germs that you can exude when you're out in the gym. And then everybody's touching the same equipment repeatedly. Cleaning, if you can rely on the cleaning, we did not. So they closed the gyms down and people were like, yeah, take care of your mind. The body will be fine. Not really. Taking care of your body often will take care of your mind also. So the first thing is, of course, I have to do this public service announcement, right? Keep yourself safe, keep everybody else safe. Wear that mask, no matter how much you hate it. I think I saw Shikha ma'am with the mask just now. And again, everybody, I don't have mine here, but we have like 10 in the car, every car. We have one in my, no, actually 2 or 3 in my purse. My husband always forgets to take his, but there are masks all over the place. But the point is, have them, use them. Beach mein masks mil nahi rahe the yahan pe. तो वो भी people were hoarding. अब जब हैं तो लोग यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं. मगर जैसे भी मास्क हैं, हमारे पास होममेड भी हैं, बाजार के भी हैं, कमर्शियल है, जो भी मास्क है पहनिए, use करिए, and use it properly. Nothing I hate more these days is when you see that mask, right? That is not covering your nose and you barely have any protection for yourself or for other people. Just don't wear it then. Just don't even pretend. कल हम doctor's office में थे, जो लेडी हमसे बात कर रही थी, फुली मास्क, ऑल गुड, शील्ड वील्ड सब लगी थी, उनके बगल में मैडम जो बैठी थी, उनका मास्क यहाँ पे था। डॉक्टर्स ऑफिस में, डॉक्टर्स ऑफिस में बैठी थी वो। एंड आई एम थिंकिंग आपको तो सबसे ज्यादा सेंस होना चाहिए कंपेयर टू एवरीबडी एल्स, बट शी वाजंट इंटरैक्टिंग विद एनीबडी. आई वुड होप दैट व्हेन शी एक्चुअली हैड अ पेशेंट शी वाज टॉकिंग टू, शी वुड have it up. But it's things like that, small things like that. And then just basic hygiene. I think अब तो हाथ धोने की आदत तो ऐसी पड़ गई है, बहुत ही अच्छी बात है, right? And Manuka ma'am will laugh because she has always been the clean freak in our family. I will call her the clean freak. She was always the one making sure everything was clean, even before the pandemic. So I think she had the easiest time adjusting to all of these weird things that we all had to start to do. So washing your hands, and sanitizer nahi hai, sabun chalega. Sabun is actually better often because you have more exposure to the cleaning agents than a hand sanitizer, which goes off quickly. So you don't need very fancy products, but then keep your distance. I know that is hard. As much as possible, keep your distance from people. Mask and still keep distance, and find that vaccine, get that vaccine. I don't know, and we don't want to get into all of this today, but jo bhi vaccination jahan bhi mil rahi hai, lagwa lijiye. And make sure you follow up with your second dose whenever it is said that you should, because the protection from the first to the second, we know, again, the research is showing, is huge. It's very big. एक dose से कुछ नहीं होता है, comparatively speaking, the benefit that you can get from the second dose added on. And once we got our vaccinations here, it's certainly, for the mental anxiety, it was a big difference. आप लोग जिनको लग गया है can speak, and I see some people nodding, it makes a difference to your mental health. Just knowing कि जो हम कर सकते थे वो तो हम कर रहे हैं. And the same thing is so we'll talk about that in a different tip. But the first tip is physical well-being, safety from the disease. But the second is eat well. आप लोगों ने ये term शायद सुना हो, ये काफी western term है, stress eating. When you're stressed, you eat, right? हम जब इंडिया में रहते थे तो हम जब स्ट्रेस होते तो खाना बंद कर देते थे. यहाँ आए तो यहाँ पर हम भी पलट गए. स्ट्रेस ईटिंग होती है. जब स्ट्रेस रहो तो और गलत चीजें खाओ. सब्जी तरकारी कोई नहीं खाता, सब्जी फल कोई नहीं खाता है. क्या खाना है? केक खाना है, मीठा खाना है. जो सबसे जंकियस्ट चीजें घर में थी वो खाइए क्योंकि आप स्ट्रेस्ड हैं. Not really. You don't have to do that. Again, you can control yourself. You can control. कभी-कभी ठीक है, indulgence बिल्कुल चलती है. And again, sometimes you feel और तो कुछ बचा नहीं है तो चलो अच्छा खाना ही खा लें, right? You can't meet अच्छे people, you can eat अच्छा food. मगर again, you have to be very mindful कि उसपे भी आपकी body को क्या असर हो रहा है, आपकी immunity को क्या असर हो रहा है. Move your body, regular exercise, not just for weight loss and looking good and all that, but it actually helps lower stress. And I've noticed it. There used to be times when पूरा दिन काम पर बैठे हैं and the only thing that you can take a break with is the news. Mentally, that is not good for you. काम में आपको जितना भी सुख मिलता हो, there is usually problem solving going on, right? And with the disease, with the pandemic, also you're trying to do problem solving, right? Figuring out how to keep safe, how to do things differently. You need to break that cycle. And sometimes all it took for and my husband also was, obviously everybody was working from home, and we both would sometimes come out of our limited spaces and say, हो गया, let's go out. And out was just जहां कहीं भी walk कर सकते थे, and हम लोग के neighborhood में जगह थी where we could just walk. आधा घंटा, पौना घंटा, 15 मिनट, जो भी है, just walk and walk fast so that again वो energy जो निकलनी है वो निकालिए. Health benefit मिलता है, very good. It also helps you sleep better, right? If you're tired, you're going to sleep better. So जिनकी आदत थी इधर-उधर जाने की, and again I'll talk about Manuka ma'am, she walks a lot. She was walking everywhere. अब suddenly आपको घर में बंद कर दिया गया. So all that physical energy also sometimes will accumulate, not letting you sleep well because you're used to being a certain level of tired. If you can get more tired, maybe that's great. हम तो काफी बारी होता था कि थकान के मारे, you pass out, that kind of sleep. And sometimes that's welcome because your body needs that. Then of course, getting that sleep, making sure you do sleep well, that adds up very fast. So again, it becomes this bad cycle. This term is also interesting, good sleep hygiene. And that basically means phone se mat kheliye सोने से पहले. जब से हम लोग छोटे थे तब से हम लोग को तो बचपन में फोन नहीं था, लेकिन अब हम लोग बच्चों से बोलते हैं, राइट? फोन को रख दो, फोन का लिमिटेड यूज हो रहा है. अडल्ट्स हम लोग क्या करते हैं? लास्ट मिनट तक, जब तक गिर ना जाए फोन हाथ से सोते सोते, तब तक फोन हाथ में रहता है. Maybe not. And they say that the blue light from the phone actually disrupts sleep. It is actually negative for inducing good sleep. So, and again, keeping the routine. making sure that you actually sleep and wake at roughly the same times. ये सब एडवाइस हम लोग को सबको मालूम है, राइट? वी आर ऑल नॉडिंग. लेकिन अब क्योंकि कोविड में सब लोग, सब कुछ डिसरप्टेड है, सारे रूटीन्स डिसरप्टेड हैं. क्या हो रहा है? कभी सो रहे हैं, कभी जाग रहे हैं. क्या करना है? हम तो दिन में भी सो सकते हैं क्योंकि कुछ करने को नहीं है. नहीं, कुछ और ढूंढिए करने को. सोइए मत तब, सो दैट योर नाइट स्लीप इज एक्चुअली more sound sleep. Routine, making routine your friend. It is not a bad thing to have a set regimen. हम लोग जब छोटे थे तो बड़े लोगों का बहुत मजाक उड़ाते थे, बुजुर्गों का, राइट? अंकल जी रिटायर्ड है लेकिन उनको खाना से बिल्कुल 1:30 बजे चाहिए. कितना मजाक उड़ता था, राइट? और क्यों उठते हैं सब रिटायर्ड लोग 5:30 बजे सुबह? सोते क्यों नहीं है? रूटीन होता है, एंड रूटीन गिव्स यू अ लॉट ऑफ प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी. Establishing it gives you a sense of control. I can control when I sleep, when I wake, when I eat. That's important when so many things are out of our control these days. And then you can plan on things. You can make the difference between work and play, work and non-work. Because I know that for a lot of us, now that we are all home all the time, कभी भी मीटिंग हो सकती है, कभी भी काम किया जा सकता है. अगर आप मना भी करो तो बोला जाएगा आपको कहाँ जाना है, आप जा कहाँ रहे हैं. हमारे नेफ्यू है, वो यही कह रहा था कि उसने कहा कि 8 बजने में 5 मिनट पे आती है मैसेज कि 8 बजे की मीटिंग ज्वाइन कर लो. 8 बजे शाम की. यूएस में तो ये और भी नहीं होता था. लेकिन आप पे क्या बोलोगे? मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? खाना खा रहा हूँ. खा लीजिए पहले, बाद में खा लीजिएगा. आधे घंटे की मीटिंग है, गेट ऑन द कॉल, नो क्वेश्चन. So things have become unreasonable in that regard. So that is why the more control you can exert. If you are a manager, don't do this to the people you manage. If you are a low-level employee, you'll have to suck it up and do it. उसमें कोई choice नहीं है. लेकिन as much as possible, separate out. When you do control your work routine, separate out work from non-work, and also space. जब काम खत्म हो जाए दिन का तो काम को हटा दीजिए. Mentally ये सब चीजें बड़ी बुद्धू सी लगती हैं, लेकिन मेंटली दे विल मेक अ डिफरेंस. वेयर यू हैव दैट डिफरेंस. क्या होता था जब हम लोग ऑफिस जाते थे, ऑफिस को वहीं छोड़ के आते थे, ऑफिस को साथ में नहीं ले आते थे. लेकिन आई नो आजकल फोन्स, लैपटॉप सब चलते हैं साथ में, तो लाइन ड्रॉ करना काफी मुश्किल था, लेकिन अब तो ऑलमोस्ट इम्पॉसिबल लगता है. एंड दैट्स नॉट अ गुड थिंग. एज मच एज यू कैन, व्हेनेवर you can, you should be doing that. And then finding time to do something which makes you happy, whether it is listening to music, watching a movie, watching a TV show, talking to somebody you like, jokes, whatever it might be, reading a book, even being by yourself, reading a book, doing whatever it might be. But of course, it is a non-virus related activity. To my husband, he said, I want to read the news because it gives me joy. That's not the excuse you should be using, because that is not joy. It should be something that takes your mind off of whatever is not good. So that's the trick you find. So ultimately, we found that we could get on Netflix and watch shows. And the funny thing is that this is very odd, and I won't go into the psychology of this one, but for us, the joy was watching shows that were not just funny, but sometimes they were very dark. So if you go to the other, now again, like मैंने कहा, psychology समझने वाली नहीं है, मगर it used to make you focus and think of a very different scenario than what you were really facing. It took you away from reality. So that was our excuse. So our son would often say, आप लोग क्या देख रहे हो? इतनी टेंशन है जिंदगी में, इतना दुख है जिंदगी में, आप लोग भी सब डार्क चीजें देख रहे हो. But हम लोग के लिए weirdly that was fun. We had our funny things also. But for us, it became our thing. And then of course, working in short bursts and taking breaks so that it's not, everything doesn't seem unending. बस दिन भर काम, हमने कितनी बार हम लोग को लगता है, राइट? उठो, काम करो, सो जाओ. That's it. That's all that's left, right? और कभी कभार इधर उधर किसी से फोन से बात कर लो, और कुछ बचा नहीं है. And but again, making sure that you follow a routine, build in other things, breaks, different things. One thing I wanted to mention, and this will be mentioned in another one also, is do something that brings you joy. And sometimes that joy might not be something that you do for yourself. And that's important to remember. Because अगर आप दुखी हो सकता है कोई और आपके सर्कल में हो जो आपसे ज्यादा परेशान हो. Reach out to them. And it's not charity. You're doing yourself some good. It sounds bad, लेकिन it puts things in perspective. आप अगर घर पे बंद हो, हम लोग सबके पास इस वक्त इतनी टेक्नोलॉजी है कि हम लोग इस वक्त जूम पे बैठे बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? अपने फोन का बिल हम लोग ने पे किया है तभी हम जूम पर हैं, इंटरनेट है, इंटरनेट के लिए हम पे कर सकते हैं। कितना और आदमी है इस वक्त दुनिया में, नॉट जस्ट इंडिया, नॉट जस्ट यूएस, जो ये नहीं कर पा रहा है, जिसके पास नौकरी नहीं है, जिसके पास 2 जून का खाना नहीं है, या जिसके पास सर्टेनिटी नहीं है। आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट वी डोंट हैव डिफिकल्टीज इन आवर लाइफ. As students, as professionals, we have lots of things we are facing that we have never faced before. But sometimes looking at that also makes a difference. For a friend who has lost a parent, for those of us who have lost our parents, we know how that grief feels. But do you know how it feels to lose them to COVID? Suddenly, helplessly, when, again, I won't go into all of it, but how they died, how their last rites were performed, all of that makes a difference to say, let me reach out and talk. I have a friend, Manuka knows, I have a friend who lost both her parents within days. I'm sure we all know of these cases, right? उस पे क्या बीत रही है? So अपना दुख आप डील करिए, लेकिन sometimes that could be something that doesn't bring you joy, but that is something that does make you feel good reaching out. When that person says, Mukul, I'm so glad you called. I just wanted to talk to someone. Right? And sometimes you might be the one that they talk to and not someone else. And if they don't want to talk, that's okay also. But they know that you are thinking of them. That's very important. So that takes me to number 3, nurturing your connections. If you can't see someone, doesn't mean you're not connected to them. So for the longest time, I didn't like the term that they called social distancing. It was not social distancing. It was physical distancing that we needed to do. सोशल हम लोग और तरीकों से हो सकते हैं, नेचुरल है फेस टू फेस होना हम लोग के लिए एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, बट यू डोंट हैव टू फील अलोन. अगेन टेक्नोलॉजी अब ऐसी स्टेज पर है कि वी डोंट हैव टू, इट फील्स आर्टिफिशियल, इट फील्स फेक टू बी सिटिंग इन द सेम room or a conference room and having this talk would be very different from the little tiles that I'm seeing on my screen. And I can only see a few pieces, a few parts. You know, it's a different thing. I get it. But hai to, we can connect. And again, connect to somebody every day. Initially, it will feel like, अरे यार अब कॉल करनी है किसी को. Almost अपने रूटीन में लिख लीजिए, 10:15 बजे मैं इसको कॉल करूंगा. whatever, you know, lunch break पे मैं एक जन को जरूर आज कॉल करूंगा या मैसेज करूंगा. And call sometimes might make a bigger difference. That voice contact is still better, right, than a forward. A forward is better than nothing. लेकिन an individual message is still better than a forward, and calling somebody is better than even doing something like that. And I'm preaching this, but Manuka will tell you that I don't call as regularly as I should. Even my sister is back in India, so it's really great when they just call suddenly and say, "कहाँ हो? कितने दिन हो गए? क्या चल रहा है?" The same thing, you know, for my nieces and nephews, it's like, "मासी कहाँ हैं आप? बहुत busy हो गई, सब कुछ खुल गया लगता है." But it's really nice to be able to say, कि नहीं, I am thinking of you. And I get lazy. But then reaching out to those who might feel particularly isolated. If you know somebody is alone in their house, that's going to be very important. I just recently connected with an elderly chachi, and Manuka made me do it. She told me she was mentioning me and I hadn't called in a while, and it was pure joy. Itne saalon baad, I had really had a one-on-one conversation with her. We haven't been back to India in over 2 years. And it was just nice. And there was nothing to talk about, you know, मेरी life यहाँ पे बहुत different है, उनकी life बहुत different है, but बच्चा कैसा है, पोते पोती कैसे हैं आपके, you know, just generally family gossip was good enough to really make us both feel connected and both feel happy. So sometimes you don't realize how much of a difference that little phone call can actually make. So do it, try it. And again, you know, you'll find that if other people are listening, and then they'll call you and there'll be that connection. Do the virtual thing. यहाँ पर तो लोग अपनी कॉफी और खाना और सब ले लवा के, अपनी ड्रिंक्स लेके, शाम को हैप्पी आवर भी हो रहा है और ये सब भी हो रहे हैं, कॉन्फ्रेंसेस तो हो ही रही हैं. मगर अगेन, यू नो, अपने सोशल ग्रुप में, अपने फ्रेंड सर्कल में, अपने फैमिली सर्कल में, टू ऑल्सो गेट टुगेदर. वी डू इट ओकेजनली विद आवर फैमिली, एंड द लिटिल वंस विल सिंग एंड डांस. अपने खिलौने भी दिखाए जा रहे हैं, बिकॉज दे नो दे आर लैकिंग दैट, कि मेरे अगर पापा ने कुछ बाजार से मंगा भी लिया, अमेज़न या जहां से भी मंगा भी लिया, तो मैं दिखाऊंगा किससे? दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ द जॉय, राइट? देखिए मुझे नई फ्रॉक मिली. And that kind of stuff you can give to someone else if you have people in the family. But again, online book clubs, if you read a book and you want to talk about it, those kinds of things, just different things to do. So again, create new traditions. Right now, you have to look forward. You can't think of what you don't have. Because again, it's not going to help your stress. We know what we are losing and what we have lost. Stop focusing on it. The way to unfocus on it is, अच्छा चलो अपने ग्रुप का वीकली कुछ सेटअप करते हैं. हम लोग फ्रेंड सर्कल था, अब हम लोग मिलते ही नहीं है. कभी किससे बात हो जाती, कभी किससे बात हो जाती. ट्राई तो करते हैं. जूम पे आपको फ्री अकाउंट मिल जाता है थोड़े थोड़े मिनट्स का, राइट? डू दैट. अगर और कुछ भी नहीं है आपके वहां, या जो आपको अपने फोन्स पे तो कितनी फैसिलिटीज अब आ गई हैं, बट जस्ट ट्राई. And if somebody is more tech savvy than you are, then get them to set it up. Be patient with your parents and help them set it up, because they may not know how to use a lot of these things that the younger folks are. Spend your time doing that. It'll feel good when the parents actually say, "Arey वाह, इसकी हमने ये वाली मासी जी को बड़े साल बाद देखा," right? That kind of joy is what is going to be important. And remember, before Zoom, we couldn't have done all those things. Now we can. You don't need very fancy things on your phone in order to be able to participate in somebody else's Zoom session. And take a break. Take a break from social media, take a break from the news. I will say this because, number 2 jo hai, please do not get your information about anything, especially the virus, from social media. Facebook, WhatsApp, you don't know where this information is coming from. It might be perfect. It might be perfectly accurate. It might be completely bogus. You don't know. And if you don't know and you cannot verify where this information is coming from, don't consume it. It's not worth it. आपकी mental sanity के लिए it is not worth it. Because usually क्या होगा? या तो बुरी खबर होगी, कितना खराब जा रहा है, या आपको बोल दिया जाएगा सब ठीक हो गया है. Either way, you are not in good shape. Either way, that information is not good for you. Because it could be wrong. And what if you say, अच्छा सब कुछ ठीक है, या हाँ, the best thing is ये सब जो, and I hate to say it, घरेलू नुस्खे हम लोग भी बहुत यूज करते हैं, लेकिन कोविड के लिए अभी तक कोई भी प्रूवन घरेलू नुस्खा नहीं मिला है. अगर होता तो हमारे देश में इतने साइंटिस्ट हैं कि ये this would have been घर घर dictated कि सब लोग बस ये कर लो, वैक्सीन की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, right? Please do not rely on a forward that you got from an auntie ji, a very respected Masi, but you don't know where this came from just because somebody you rely on sent it to you. That is not the way to verify good information. And it sounds very harsh, because I respect so-and-so और उन्होंने ये भेजा है मुझे. Nope, it's not safe. It's not enough to risk your life. That's what I would say, right? अगर कोई घरेलू नुस्खा बता रहा है इम्यूनिटी बढ़ाने का, कर लीजिए. अदरक की चाय पीनी है, जितनी पी लीजिए, जो भी बताया जा रहा है, it doesn't harm you, fine. मगर don't let that dictate your actions. We are still in a pandemic. अभी भी डर है कि डिजीज म्यूटेट कर रही है, और यहाँ पर भी यूएस में भी हम लोग, like I said, थोड़ी चीजें खुल गई हैं. We are seeing certain people, we are seeing people who have been fully vaccinated, लेकिन फिर भी वो डर है. मास्क हमारे कहीं भी नहीं गए हैं, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग कहीं नहीं गई है. And I don't think it's a bad idea to be extra cautious rather than just simply say, बस हो गया बहुत, I'm done. Lots of people are in that mindset, but try and resist that. But even reliable information, don't consume it 24/7. It is not going to give you any peace. There is no cure. The vaccine is very effective, but not 100%. So आपके जितने negative thoughts हैं, वो सब अच्छी positive news के संग भी वापस आते हैं, right? कि अब ये क्या होगा, अभी इसमें क्या होगा, और बच्चों को कब मिलेगा. There are so many uncertainties still, जो कि अभी भी कुछ पता नहीं है कहाँ पे ये सब जाना है. As a result, you have to draw the line between informational and upsetting. And सबकी अपनी अपनी लिमिट होती है. आपको अपनी अपनी लिमिट फिगर आउट करनी है. When you find कि आप एक हद हो गई है and you can't focus and all you can do is think about this, then think about आपने last 24 hours में कितना ये सब पढ़ा, सुना, discuss किया. I know sometimes I did not want to talk to other people because all we would talk about would be the pandemic, right? Everything that is problematic in our lives. And it was like,